Welcome to the Cool Health Podcast, where we unlock groundbreaking research in health and wellness by bringing you the latest in health news and in-depth interviews with experts in their fields. We're here to make health cool again. Dr. Alison Plaut, that rhymes with clout. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And you just told me you're in the Netherlands right now, and the time difference is substantial. So thank you for joining me on the Cool Health Podcast. How's everything?
No problem. Everything is good. I love the name of the Cool Health Podcast. That's already a great basis.
We're here to make health cool again. And there's key principles to health. Nutrition, there's lifestyle, there's stress management, and then you in your work play a substantial part of health, and that is consciousness, that's meditation, that is your practice of, I don't want to mess up the pronunciation. Anyways, how'd you get into all this stuff?
Transcendental meditation.
Yes. Transcendental meditation. First things first, how'd you get into this transcendental meditation? And then, what on earth is transcendental meditation? It's time to thank the amazing sponsor of this podcast, Alitura Naturals, my go-to destination for high-quality skincare products made with the finest ingredients. At Alitura, they use the most pure, nutrient-rich ingredients at the core of every product, from things like wild-crafted sea buckthorn, and organic aloe vera, to grass-fed colostrum and organic cacao butter. Each of the ingredients is thoughtfully selected, and it has these incredible healing and nourishing properties. Why do I choose them over other skincare? I mean, just from their all-natural ingredients, guys. Alitura takes pride in using only ethically sourced, natural, and organic materials to create their powerful formulas, ensuring your skin gets the best possible care without harsh chemicals. It's scientifically proven and effective. Each ingredient in their products is backed by thorough scientific research to maximize effectiveness in supporting skin health and anti-aging. And finally, it was created by an expert, Andy Nilo, a former model and actor, founded Alitura after a life-changing accident, and this led him to develop his own transformative skincare solutions. So, guys, join the thousands of satisfied customers who have discovered the stunning results of Alitura's exceptional skincare line. Use my code JEK20, all caps JEK20. Get yourself a discount. This stuff is truly amazing, guys. Think hostage tape. We're here to discover the revolutionary way to improve your sleep and overall health. Mouth taping is a natural and effective method for promoting nasal breathing during sleep, which unlocks a world of incredible benefits, including enhanced sleep quality, reduced snoring, improved mental focus, and boosted overall health. Also, it's a safe and comfortable design, especially designed to be hypoallergenic, gentle on the skin, and easy to remove. It allows you to get in deep sleep states, and I'm telling you, when I put on my Oura Ring and check my scores, they're always so much better when I use hostage tape. For the discount code, guys, it's going to be John67447 for 10% off.
Okay, well, I was basically born into it. My parents were both teachers of Transcendental Meditation. And I grew up in a community where everyone, well, not everyone, but the part of the community that had joined Maharishi International University was all practicing Transcendental Meditation. So I learned the children's technique when I was 4, the adults technique when I was 9, and so I've been practicing it my whole life, basically. What Transcendental Meditation is a simple, natural, effortless technique practiced by millions of people around the world. It requires no concentration, no contemplation, and no belief. And that is what sets it apart from most other forms of meditation. Most other forms of meditation require either concentration or contemplation. So like if the meditation is asking you to focus on your breath or think of a single word over and over and over again, those are forms of concentration. Contemplation is a little bit more aware, but it's like following your thoughts. Like, oh, think of a flower, and what does the flower make you feel like, and how do you feel from that, and like that. So it's like flowing from one thing to the next. What happens in transcendental meditation is that, let's think of an ocean now. In concentration, you're trying to stay in one spot as the waves are moving you.
Very true.
In contemplation, you've got a snorkel fin on and you're cruising around, you're seeing what you see.
Okay.
In transcendental meditation, you dive to the depth of the ocean. And there you are at the base of the ocean where it's totally calm, silent, and peaceful. The waves are still crashing above you, but you're completely silent and peaceful. How do we do this? Transcendental meditation uses the nature of our minds to look for more happiness. We all experience it. In a simple example I always give is, while we're talking here, if your favorite song starts playing in the room, your attention will go to the song. You won't be listening to me anymore because the song is more charming. In the same way, when you hear people talk about the idea of our monkey minds or our minds jumping from thing to thing to thing, it's because they're looking for more happiness, looking for more charm. So TM basically uses the nature of the mind and gives it a direction so that it can experience a more settled state, which is also a more charming state of greater happiness and greater peace.
Wow, that's something I've never heard of. Because usually when you think of meditation, like you go on a meditation app and they tell you focus on your breathing and or focus on a light that's on your forehead, some shiny light, or focus on one good reference that actually got me into meditation was you're on a highway or you're on a hill next to a highway and you're watching the cars go by. And that helped for a little bit. But to start getting into these deeper states, you're right. Trying to concentrate on one thing, I didn't feel like I got the full effect of meditation. And I'm curious, when you were in this Maharishi,
yes.
Yogi,
Maharishi or Maharshi, either.
Maharishi, it's amazing. What's the kid Maharishi like, and what's his community like?
Yeah, the community is actually not actually called, the name of the town is Fairfield, Iowa.
Oh, it's in Iowa.
It's in southeast Iowa.
Wow.
In the middle of cornfields and basically nowhere. But it was in the 70s, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi became very popular in the West, especially with my parents' generation, which was basically the hippies, because they were looking for a better outlet to create peace. They were really upset with the Vietnam War, everything they were seeing in world events. And so they were a bunch of college kids basically, but thousands of them looking to create a better world. And so they learned transcendental meditation en masse. And when Maharishi wanted to take all of these Vedic teachings, these yogic teachings, and make them scientific, he said, look, we have this tradition for millions of years in India, but the Western mind wants to understand everything on the basis of science. Let's do scientific research. Let's establish a university that's dedicated to research on consciousness, on human potential as all possibilities. And so they bought a university that had gone bankrupt, Parsons College in Fairfield, Iowa, and turned it into Maharishi International University. My parents moved there before I was born. So I think growing up in Fairfield in many ways is like growing up in small town America anywhere. All the things kids love to do. We could skateboard and ride bikes across town unsupervised, which I know is not a thing anymore.
No, it's not, unfortunately.
And there was a sense of community that, for the most part, the adults were friendly. They were friends with your parents. You always had someone to look out for you if you wiped out on a hill, for example. And the principles of consciousness, of Vedic education that we learned as children were very simple. Extremely simple principles that in reality, now as an adult, I realize are so fundamental for anyone. Ideas like water the root to enjoy the fruit. If you're not nourishing the base of life, you're not going to be able to expect it to grow, the whole tree of life to grow. So if you're not taking care of yourself first, how can you expect yourself to accomplish more and more and more? Another principle that we learned as children is thought leads to action, action leads to achievement, and achievement leads to fulfillment. So if you're not able to think clearly in a powerful way, then you're not going to be able to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish, and that you won't have that fulfillment of accomplishment. Of course, we also learned that happiness comes from the inside. So it's not only outer accomplishment, but inner fulfillment as well.
You learned all of this as a child.
Yes.
I mean, it seems like you guys could build a whole world based off those principles. And it's so
Absolutely.
unfortunate that as a child nowadays, and there's a lot of great places to learn as a child, and there's unschooling and homeschooling, but a lot of the general public schooling, which is great, allows children to learn and flourish and stuff, but sometimes they play ignorance to consciousness and your inner
Mm-hmm.
self, as well as just personal self-care and connection to something higher. Now, when we talk
Yeah.
about that, you said consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
What on earth is that?
Consciousness. It's a big word, and it's actually a word that's getting a lot of attention in research circles, in theories about what is life right now. But here's consciousness. It has two. You hear a word in it, conscious. It's a word we're all familiar with. You're conscious. So you might think consciousness means someone who is conscious in a simple sense.
So wait.
Like if you're in a coma, you're not conscious, therefore you don't have consciousness. But that's not actually correct. Even in a coma, you have consciousness. Because when I'm talking about consciousness, I'm not talking about the state of being awake. I'm talking about the essence at the depth of the mind in every human being, and actually not just in human beings, but in everything around us. It's everywhere. Consciousness, if we want to get a little bit into, very little bit into physics, physicists have talked about unified levels of nature's functioning. So they take force and matter fields like gravity that we're all familiar with, and they create theories that show how gravity is unified with the other force and matter fields like electromagnetism, which creates electricity. And when they're all unified, what they have left is what they call the unified field. Unified field contains within it everything. There's nothing that exists outside of the unified field. Therefore, there's also no way to step outside of the unified field and measure it objectively. And that's where human consciousness and human experience comes in. If something is everywhere, there's no way to measure it objectively. The only way is to experience it directly. And that is the inborn ability of every human being. You don't have to have any special IQ or great understanding. Anyone from any level of education, children who are 9 years old, can experience what is normally experienced as some sort of quiet, some peace, something nice, so enjoyable, maybe more happiness. And that is our own inner consciousness that's not just waiting dormant, but is always there, lively and awake and ready to be used.
Now, would you say consciousness, what's the feeling like? Is it when you're just with no thoughts and you don't even know that you're with no thoughts? Is that what's going on? How can someone tell if they're truly conscious? Because the mind's running rampant. And it's funny, I heard when you're talking about the science of it, Joe Dispenza really brought into the science of consciousness the idea of the quantum field and all of that stuff. So science is starting to understand it. How do we as regular people can understand it? What's it like?
Okay, well, let's talk about different states of consciousness, because we're all conscious right now, and we're all always consciousness, whether we feel like it or not. It's not a subjective experience, although there are different states of consciousness. Right now, when we're talking, we're both in waking state of consciousness. Our mind is alert and awake, and our body is also active. When we sleep, that sleep state of consciousness, the body is getting deep rest, and the mind experiences nothing, blackness. When we dream, the body is still resting, but the mind is active. We may be being chased by a tiger or, floating through the universe or whatever. So those are the first three common states of consciousness that everybody experiences. The fourth state of consciousness is transcendental consciousness. And just as each of the first three have different styles of physiological functioning and mental functioning, the fourth state does as well. In the fourth state of consciousness, the body is gaining deep rest, almost like sleep, but the mind is awake and alert. And you asked, how does somebody know that they're there? The amazing thing is that everybody will experience it a little bit differently because we each have unique bodies and nervous systems. How I experience consciousness may be slightly different from how you experience consciousness. And to me, that's part of the fun, because everyone can experience through their own lens, through their own unique perspective and physiology, consciousness. Some people will say that it's like you said, that it's no thoughts and you're not even aware that there's no thoughts. Others will call it a state of inner wakefulness. I've heard people describe it feeling like they were in a giant bubble. Other people have said they just feel so much happiness. They don't know where it's coming from. Some people call it like a field of peace. So everyone has different experiences, and everyone can have different experiences at different times, depending on how the nervous system is at that time.
Amazing. You grew up in this wonderful area of Iowa. You learned all this stuff. You went to school and you hold a Ph.D. in political science, a master's in business administration on sustainability, and a master's in Vedic science. Now, how did you start incorporating this into your future, which we're going to talk about now?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I can see integrating all three. The research on political science, the PhD research, was on the development of human consciousness and the application of the technologies of consciousness for individuals to create a better society. So it's the influence of the microcosm on the macrocosm. Because the US is a prime example of divisive politics. There's so much in the world that is divisive that there's not a clear resolution. Everybody on both sides has great points. But how do you take that and create actually a better society? And what my PhD research was on was how when people meditate, when people experience the field of consciousness, it doesn't only create better, more happiness, more peace in their own lives, but it actually creates a positive impact around them. And other researchers have done research on large groups practicing together. And what they found is that when the square root of 1% of a population, which for the whole world is about 8,000 people, practices transcendental meditation and the advanced programs together, positive trends in the whole society improve. That means decreased accidents, decreased hospitalizations, decreased violent crime, increased economic growth, increased positive trends, increased optimism in society. So that is, in terms of the future, that's one of the things that's most exciting to me, is the idea that we don't have to convince politicians to sign any specific laws into place. We can use the field of consciousness to create an effect that's all good for everyone. And that we don't have to worry, well, if we do this, what's it going to do to somebody else? Or is it, if it helps this group, is it going to harm this group? The amazing thing about consciousness, because it's a field, the term is infinite correlation. It means that we're all connected to it everywhere. Not just that we're connected to it, we are consciousness. So when you raise the quality of consciousness, when you enliven the power of consciousness in one place, it enlivens that power of consciousness everywhere. And that is a way to create a better society automatically. So when I wrote the book, that was sort of like the final step. If somebody read the book and applied all the points and was like, what more can I do? That in my mind is the final step, is use these technologies to create good for your individual community or for the larger society. It's like, what do you have to lose? You'll be benefiting directly. Your friends and family will be benefiting directly. And if it creates more good, even better.
That's so right. And if you were to bring it down to like an American term, I don't mean to make fun, but it's like spreading good vibes. When you're in a good state of mind, everyone else feels it. They are it, really. And everyone else has a better day. And it's funny, in my yoga practice, as well as working for a yoga center, they always say, after the yoga has ended, they say, you are now equipped to have a better day and help everyone else's, basically. So you're absolutely right.
Beautiful.
And Eckhart Tolle, that's funny, he was talking about the politics, and everyone seems so divided, so this way or that way. But if we could just recognize our unity between all of us, that's a pretty aligning point, wouldn't you say?
It's a fundamental major point that we've all forgotten. That the analogy they give in the Vedic tradition often is that we are all drops from the same ocean. We believe that we're isolated drops, but the second we end up in the ocean, we become one with everything again. So it's that idea that we think we're individuals, we have our individual beliefs, our individual communities, and we are, of course. But the underlying basis of that is the same field of consciousness. And there's that great term, I think an American saying, a rising tide raises all boats. It's that idea that when we raise each other up, then we all benefit. That's
amazing.
And some of the most cool research, your yoga center experience made me think of it. Some of the most cool research, I think, on TM measured the EEG coherence of practitioners, advanced practitioners, And then they went out on the street and they measured people the EEG coherence of people who weren't practicing TM. And while the advanced practitioners were meditating, the people on the street had exceptionally high EEG coherence. That means that all the parts of their brain were firing in synchrony. It means they had all the benefits that come with EEG coherence: increased intelligence, increased IQ, increased creativity, greater analytical reasoning, and also greater happiness, greater contentment, reduced anxiety and depression, those kind of things.
It's like with the thoughts, it's I am clear, I am loved, I am respected, versus this was in Joe Dispenza's book, but it was, a clear EEG, what's that mean again? Electro and
it's EEG stands for electroencephalogrammaton. It's basically just measuring the electrical activity of the brain. They put these little nodes like all over the brain. And normally people have specific parts that'll function at one time. The brain doesn't normally function in coherence, but during transcendental meditation and perhaps some other forms of meditation, the whole brain is functioning in a coherent manner. It's exceptionally rare and exceptionally powerful, because if we can use the full potential of our brain, it creates all incredible new possibilities.
That's amazing.
The amazing thing is that it's not just the people sitting there meditating who are benefiting. The guys on the street who were out, grocery shopping, suddenly had this great brainwave coherence. And that's the power of consciousness, that it's a field effect. The other analogy people give to understand consciousness, which makes it clear, is you think when radio first was invented or discovered, people thought it was like witchcraft. They're like, how is this possible that over these radio waves, on somebody can send a message from Europe and somebody else gets it in America? It uses a field. It uses frequency. Consciousness is just a different field, a different frequency, and we reach each other in the same way.
So this is a good one. Unfortunately, we have 5G towers now, which I don't think are such good fields. And I'm next to one right now. And honestly, I know I took, no one believes me, right? And then I bring out the meter thing and I'm like, hey, check this out. It shows your radiation levels or whatever. And that's concerning. But this energetic wave, by the way, was the practitioner and just the person on the street, were they near each other at all? Or what was going on there?
I'd have to go back and look at the research. I don't remember exactly. I know that it was a large group of practitioners, so there was several thousand people together. And I believe the people on the street were several towns away. So it wasn't like they were like sitting a few inches apart. They were a
but it was
distance,
spreading.
but I don't know the exact distance.
Spreading that wide. That's just phenomenal. Now, you took all of your experience, you took all of your research, and you made a book. And not only is it just a book, it's an amazing book. And it's Be More. 18 practical steps for more peace, success, and happiness in your life beginning today. Why'd you make this book?
Yes. Well, you now know that I've been studying Vedic knowledge from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi since I was a kid. And when I was 14, I had the realization that not just like people tell me, happiness comes from the inside, but I realized there's no amount of success, there's no amount of accomplishment, there's no level of physical I'll be able to understand that will bring me lasting happiness. If I want inner happiness, I'd prefer to take that first, and then I can accomplish anything else. But let's go for happiness first. So when I started deeply pursuing Vedic knowledge, I realized that there is so much more to life, but it's also very, very simple. It's not complex. You don't have to have a PhD to understand it. Anyone can understand and apply these principles in their lives. And so about 2 years ago, I suddenly realized that there's so many self-help books out there. There's so much knowledge out there, but a lot of it lacks practical application of how to use your full human potential. It gives some empowering words like, you can be anything you want to be. You're already enough as you are. Set your mind on your goals and, shoot for the stars, and or whatever that saying is, shoot for the moon and you'll end up amongst the stars, like that. So there's all these inspiring quotes and, ask the universe for what you want. And there's power to all of those. I agree with them completely. But at the same time, I know from my own experience that it's not always natural to feel happy, that you can go through really challenging situations. What do you do in those times? How do you handle those times? And at the same time, even if you're living a great life and you seem basically fulfilled, how do you get to the next level? Because the nature of life is to want more and more and more. So I called the book Be More, is it doesn't matter whether you feel like you're at the lowest point of your life or the highest point of your life. There's always more to achieve outside, but first to be inside.
It's wonderful. one more thing about yoga. My yoga instructor, he's online. Their names are Breathe and Flow. I'm in a plank position, right? And you do everything right. You got the form right. You got the hands. You got the shoulders tucked in, hips tucked in, and they go, now this pose is already done, correct? You're already in the plank pose, but your breath and the inner pose is infinite. It's you can go as deep as you want with that versus you can just do a pretty good plank, right? And
absolutely,
that refers just to life. You know, you could get all the money and you could get a job and then get the best job and you're president, but you're like, man, why aren't I feeling this way? I know a guy, my friend Kurt, works with a guy who has ALS, and he was the president of one of these huge law firms, so much money, so much everything. Yeah, he couldn't find happiness or inner joy. Unfortunately, he had a disease, but at the same time, he just couldn't see what it was like. So now he's working on inner you, and he's becoming more. So let's go through this book. It's so amazing. Let's go through section by section, be more.
Okay.
You have a lovely introduction, and then it starts with always keep learning. What does that mean?
Yes. Well, I think you probably are exemplifying that. It's the idea that no matter where we are on a spiritual path or an intellectual path, there's always more to learn. It's sort of a mistake of the ego to ever declare oneself done, because as long as there's life, there's an opportunity to learn. We have we have a physiology, we have a brain. When we learn, we open new doors and new possibilities for ourselves. And so I started the book out with that because I thought I'm going to give a lot more information. I might as well start with that. I personally found it so important because there's been many times in my life when I felt like, okay, I've got it. This is it. And looking back, I didn't at all. Right. And the knowledge or the understanding and the experience I gained afterwards completely transformed my worldview and also my happiness, my well-being. And so I think it's sort of fundamental to everything else is let's just establish it right off the bat. If we don't keep learning, then we'll remain stagnant. And if our goal is to be more, then the first thing we're going to do is keep learning. And I give in that chapter also, I realize I'm going to have to go faster if we're going to get through 18 of these. I give in that chapter an example about Maharishi himself and how even an enlightened rishi can show with humility the desire to learn, because there's no one, as long as there's a body, there's the opportunity to learn, and the ability to learn from the environment and see what nature presents also is a way through wisdom to open new opportunities.
Actually, Alison, I was thinking, let's go through your favorite ones, because people still need to read this book. It's so amazing. People still need to understand it and not learn it all in 1 hour because it's something to bite on. What else are you thinking? What sections? Some other sections, the answer to love is to love more.
Yes.
You want to go through that one?
Okay, you've hit on one of my favorites because I have 3 chapters on love, which is maybe repetitive, but it's so important that I kept coming back to it. Because love, people think, especially I think in the Western world, they think of wanting to attract love or attract a partner and look for romantic love. But what I'm talking about in the book is first finding love within ourselves, the capacity to love within ourselves and to love ourselves. And in doing that, we attract love. By giving love, we attract more love. And so whether you're desiring love, desiring a romantic partner, or you're feeling already a lot of love, either way, the response is the same. Give more love, because love has a purifying quality in our own hearts, in our own psychology, and it allows us to build greater happiness and all the tender feelings of emotion, sweetness, love, compassion, all blended together.
Dissolving Maya. Maya meaning mind, is that correct?
Oh, Maya. Maya is a Sanskrit word. Maya means that which is not.
Okay.
Which is it.
It doesn't mean dysfunction? Is that what they kind of reference into, or?
They might reference it that way, but in the sort of pure Vedic understanding, it literally means that which is not. And Maya, the idea of Maya, is what we were talking about consciousness. Maya is that which makes us believe that we're the drop and not the ocean. It makes us believe that we're separate from consciousness or that we're separate from each other. So Maya is called the great illusion because it leads us to believe that we're separate, that we have an individual identity, that I can accomplish something ahead of you, when in reality, any one of us accomplishing brings us all up. So it's the idea that there's no separation and no division, and yet there's this thing, we call it Maya, that makes us feel like we're divided and separate.
That's so true. Everyone thinks, oh, I got to be first place. If it's not me, it's you. I got to be number one. And but I see every day people are opening up to this idea of helping each other, bringing good vibes. You're seeing it, not everyone, but it's getting better each day. And just like you said, one person does it more, the whole earth feels that. What are some action steps to love more? How can we do this?
Love more. The answer to love is to love more. Let's find out what I put there since I don't remember.
There's a lot.
Let's jump there.
Yep.
I can give you some actions off the top of my head, but I don't remember what I actually wrote on that chapter.
That's cool.
Okay, so is this the right chapter? We'll see. But in any case, this is an action step that I think will build love, appreciation, and gratitude in life. It's the idea that if you take even, say, 2 minutes in the day and just appreciate everything around you, this can be in your life, like, oh, I appreciate, what I had for breakfast and my family and my house and the window, but get into the nitty gritty also. Don't just think of like the big general things like health and happiness and family that everyone says. Get into the nitty gritty. And I shared that there's a tradition in Sthapatya, which is Vedic architecture, a system of architecture in accordance with natural law, that when you move into the house, you appreciate everything. So you go around, you say, wow, look how pretty that grout is, and look at the windowsill, and look at the way the handle cranks, and wow, look at that doorknob. You go through every little thing. And that appreciation builds gratitude. So it sets the whole tone of the day of, wow, there's something really special here. Wow, look at my computer keyboard. Wow, look at the computer screen. Look at you smiling there. How lucky am I? Like that. And it creates this feeling of something really special and unique. So that was, I don't think that's actually the love chapter. I'm still scrolling to get to the love, but that was a nice one.
That's amazing. That's the most in-depth gratitude journal you could think of. And you're right. It's funny. I was doing that last night. I was going, instead of the general gratitude journal, I'm thankful for my family, you go, I'm thankful for the way my brother acts so weird when it's dinner night. Or I'm thankful for the way my dog barks when he sees a treat. Something like that.
Exactly.
It's the small things that make life. And you're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
And it's like this motivating, re-energizing factor, just feeling. Maybe that's your consciousness waking up, or it's already awake, just like you said, but being more energized.
No, well, it has okay. Consciousness on one level is already fully awake and always there, but that doesn't mean we're experiencing that way. And when we take these actions, when we transcend, when we appreciate things more, when we cultivate happiness in our lives, we're bringing it more onto the surface. Of course, the most powerful way is to experience directly the settled state of consciousness, but every little action creates and enlivens more good. Another principle Maharishi said that has now become sort of popular in the common lexicon, but when I was growing up, it wasn't, is what you put your attention on grows stronger in your life. So when you put your attention on the good, when you put your attention on the positive, it brings more of that into your life.
Strong.
Now people say, for example, where attention goes, that grows. It's the same concept. What you put your attention on grows stronger. Wow.
So many people only focus on the negative, which is unfortunate because there's so much good. And it's funny when you see your friends, they maybe something unfortunate happened, but then they go, oh, everything always bad happens to me. Or yes, I'm always so unlucky and life stinks. I'm like, well, I don't, sometimes you try to help as much as you can, but sometimes be like, maybe that's why you feel not the best every time. Because you're primed to think, oh, I'm just so unlucky. That might be a thing you've ingrained in your mind. So thinking on that good, saying great things, gratitude journal, it's all amazing.
Yeah.
And so many people can benefit from that.
And you don't even have to write it down. Just spend 1 minute sitting and thinking of it from time to time.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so here's an action step on love. I'm going to give you 2, and they're both ones that listeners can do over the week if they want.
Sweet.
One is to notice any experiences of love you have had in the last week, and then write about how that was significant to your life. How did that experience of love in some way transform or move your life forward? So that's one exercise.
Sweet.
And just, again, what you put your attention on grows. See what it does in your life.
Okay.
Another one that's really fun is to think of one of the best moments of love in your life, when you felt completely full of love. Now think of a song, a poem, some expression that reminds you of that experience. And from time to time, suppose it's a song, from time to time, listen to that song and let yourself again experience that power of love. It can even be a scent. Maybe there's some scent or aroma that reminds you of that moment of love. Whatever it is, just take even 1 minute from time to time to remind yourself of who you are as a person full of love.
This is amazing. I had an idea in mind. We should create a transcendental meditation blueprint / Be More, Dr. Alison Plaut, day in the life action steps, right? So let's say we woke up.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Let's just say we woke up. We've never incorporated any of these practices in our life. We want to activate our consciousness, feel love at its core, feel united. A good way to start might just be waking up and saying, yes, I'm awake. Thank you for these bed sheets, right? And then
why not?
And then you go and you have your cup of coffee. And I don't know if we could say, just because of the feeling of that cup of coffee brings you love, maybe we can. Maybe we need to.
Depends on the person.
Okay.
Depends on the person.
Well, for me, coffee is like, oh my God, this is the best thing in the world, right?
There you go.
We could say that's the love I feel.
Yeah, or the appreciation you feel. I don't know if you're feeling love for the coffee or appreciation for the coffee, but you get to decide that.
Yeah.
But either way, it's bringing you a feeling of contentment and well-being, and that there is something deeply good in your life in that moment.
Right. We shouldn't drink coffee 24/7. Experience.
Well, if you want to sleep, probably not, but that's up to your doctor and you.
Yeah. Unless you're a really fast doctor. I don't know. What else, other action steps can we go through? What other sections are you really feeling people should know right now?
Yes. Let me look at the chapters. If we're going through this sort of day, I would say, and it won't happen the first day because you'd have to learn transcendental meditation, have that experience directly, even if it's the pricing structures on a sliding scale. It varies by country. I don't know if you have international listeners.
Okay.
But there are it's much more expensive than a meditation app usually.
Okay.
But it gives you personalized training that then you can use your whole life. And there is opportunities, scholarships, payment plans, ways that anyone can learn. So no one should feel, oh my God, that's expensive, I can't do it.
I see.
Reach out here if you say it's too much, I can't find a way, and I'll help you figure out how to learn as well.
Okay. Well, maybe we need to go into that first on transcendental meditation. Do you think we should incorporate these steps first, or do you think we should do the transcendental meditation first? And then
I think you can do both at the same time. I mean, the book is what, like $9 on Amazon or something. So the book is simple.
Yeah.
You can certainly incorporate the steps right away. And that gives you a basis of different ways to, each chapter ends with about 5 action steps that you can do, say, every day over a week, or you can say spread each chapter out over a month and do each action step, 1 action step a week.
Okay.
So you can start that right away. The book on its own gives benefit, but as you'll see from reading it, to get the maximum benefit, you need to practice transcendental meditation because it allows you to experience that settled state of the mind directly. There are other ways to experience it, but it's the most direct way I know of. So that's why it's what I recommend.
We'll cover our action steps first. Let's say we're preparing for transcendental meditation, and then we'll cover how to do it, transcendental meditation.
Awesome.
Let's do some more action steps. What else are we feeling?
Okay, let's do action.
Yeah.
What else are we feeling? Let's see. One chapter that I think is really important, it's right at the beginning, is the idea that anything is possible.
See.
And that ties back into what we were talking about the brain physiology, that we're only normally using some small percentage of our brains. When we meditate, we can use our whole brain potential. If we're not meditating and somebody else around us is meditating, we may also be using our whole brain potential, thanks to them. So there's this power of tapping into our own, just what our bodies are capable of in a very simple sense. And then the idea that we all have hopes and dreams. It's like, best case scenarios of our lives. What if our best case scenario was like 1% of what our full potential is? What about opening up the all possibilities that we really could achieve anything we dreamed and so much more? So that's what I talk about in Anything is Possible, from a physiological perspective, and then from the perspective of the experience of consciousness, that even if you look at the universe, it's enormous. You can go look at the NASA website and try and understand how big it is with reference to, a little human being sitting on Earth. And then to think that within consciousness, we are the universe. We can experience that huge expanse of the universe within ourselves. How amazing is that?
It's so hard to think of that. I try almost every day, and I go, I think it's almost like a survival instinct not to think that much, so you don't go become some crazy, guy in the street yelling, "The universe is you" or something. I don't know, but it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible to think that and know it, and know it's true. That's it.
Something that's it.
Amazing.
So that's a pretty powerful thread. And then we talked about happiness. Think big is related to that. Mm-hmm. Anything is possible. That means you can think as big as you want. It was actually, Maharishi has said it, but Picasso also said a variation of it, which is anything you can imagine is real on some level of life, which means if you can create anything, why not create the best you can imagine? Something so incredible, big, powerful, significant for yourself, for your family, and for the world. So that's one that I think really inspired me, even from a young age, learning from Maharishi, the idea that there is so much more to life.
When you look at those artists who made those amazing paintings and sculptures and everything, mm-hmm. that's not just their human body doing that. There's no way. I mean, you look at some of the things that were created in this world that had to have been a higher consciousness.
Absolutely. And that's many great people across disciplines, across fields, tap into their higher consciousness when they are achieving success. Artists, scientists, musicians, athletes. Athletes describe being in the zone. Philosophers describe some sort of zen. If you go through, you see that many, many, many people, and not just those who accomplish some like world record level accomplishment, but if every one of your listeners thinks for a moment, probably we've all had at least one moment in our lives when we felt like we were in the flow, in a zen state, some inner peace. It's not something that's very far away. It's there. It's just to tap into it more and more. It's there ready in all of us.
We're going to tap in more with these action steps. Journal, mm-hmm. love. We're going to think big.
Okay, so I'll scroll. We're now going randomly because I have to go through the action steps. Okay. So here's a fun one. I'm not sure what even chapter this is on. What is its chapter is this? Life is in the moment, not in the days.
It's in the moment.
And in this one, I talk about how we have the opportunity at every moment to transform our life. It's not just, we think of the big, grand, important moments, the graduations, the marriages, the milestone events, the new jobs, the whatever. But those are like a landmark or a milestone, hence the name milestone. It's the little moments. Every moment there's 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day. Every moment we have the possibility to transform our lives. And that is because of this power of consciousness. It's not a linear field. It's not that you have to go step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And if you're on step 5 and you need to get to step 5 million, too bad. At every moment, it's like flipping a switch. That we can become more, in fact, be more. We can be more at any moment. We can have that unlimited power of consciousness. And ultimately, we're all headed towards that, whether we realize that or not. Whether we think we just want, to earn our first $1 million, or whether we think we just want to, get along better with our spouse, whatever the desire, ultimately, that is a stepping stone and a way to at the same time accomplish greater growth of our own consciousness, our own ability to expand and encompass everyone and everything within ourselves.
Wow.
So one of the action steps in this chapter is to reflect and write. Again, we're back to the journal. Have you had a chance, intentionally or unintentionally, to change someone else's life in a moment? How did that feel? And what could you have done to make it better? So it's you can do it intentionally or unintentionally, for good or for bad. That idea that we do all have moments when life seems to change dramatically in a second. When have you had that impact on someone else? And how could you use future opportunities to create more good for that person or others?
This is insane. I feel like I've known you my whole life. because when I'm in an elevator and I see someone and they're like this, if you're on the camera, you see this, right? And they're like, don't look at me. But then you say this, you say, nice shoes. Or you say some nice, small, subtle compliment, and all of a sudden they look at you like you're like the best human in the world. And you've really made their day.
Yeah.
I leave that elevator and I'm uplifted. I'm so incredibly grateful to be able to do that. And not most people, it's hard for everyone. It's hard for everyone to feel like in a moment they can change. I think, oh, I've already messed up the day. We'll just try again tomorrow. Or, oh, once I stop, graduate, then I'll stop having to do homework, or then it'll be easier. You're saying we can do it right now, right this very moment. You can smile, you can uplift, you can write in your journal, get those thoughts out of your head almost. And
absolutely,
it's beautiful.
And you can apply it to yourself also, that idea of a moment of kindness, because often we're the most hard on ourselves, most critical of ourselves.
So true.
So instead of, putting on the outfit and being like, oh, I look terrible, go, oh, wow, look at my amazing smile, look at my amazing eyes, whatever it is you appreciate about yourself, start to see the good in yourself as well. And pretend you're the stranger on the elevator who's uncomfortable, and see how you can uplift him or her and make their day better.
Wow. And it's so funny. Some guy said, how you treat yourself, if you were to say that to your friend, would you like yourself saying that? If you were to say, oh man, you did such a shit job today at whatever it is, would you tell your friend that truthfully? I mean, if you're very blatant, yes, but most people would say no. I'd be nice to them and caring. Maybe they should do that for themselves. Same to everyone.
Absolutely.
Same for all of us.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do more.
That starts to build confidence.
Yeah, these are great.
Let's do one more. Let's see what we're just ready.
Okay.
Well, I think we're approaching an hour.
Oh,
We're going to have to go in 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Let's see what more we can do. And I assume we'll let it out. Okay, so this must be on the chapter on intuition.
Okay.
Now, this is a very cool chapter. It's called You Already Know the Answer, and it talks about intuition. Probably everyone has experienced, I know I have many times, which is why I wrote a whole chapter in the book on it, when you felt this feeling inside, sort of guiding voice, something saying you should do it this way, or this is the right way. And your intellect says, no, absolutely not. That doesn't make sense for this reason and this reason and this reason. I'm going to do this. It's perfect. It makes sense. And then you do what your intellect says and you realize, oh, the intuition was right. And there was some other situation you didn't see or you couldn't calculate in that made the logic of the intellect totally wrong. And it's something that we all do. We all have inner intuition or an inner voice guiding us. And as I say in the book, we tend to be a little bit like an inattentive spouse. We just sort of tune it out. It's there, fine, we're not listening. So the power of this chapter is learning to listen to our inner voice, because that is not just helping us find a better parking spot. It's helping us see the doors, the windows, the opportunities to something greater in life. It's the power of our own inner intelligence pushing us forward towards evolution. And one of the examples I give in that chapter, which I think is very cool, is that in herbal medicine, they explain that in nature, wherever a poisonous plant grows, the antidote to that poisonous plant grows near it. So nature provides the poison and nature provides the cure. In the same way, our own inner intuition, our own inner voice is the cure, is the solution to whatever problems we may encounter. There's always that voice, that inner wisdom, that power within that allows us to better accomplish whatever we desire.
That gut feeling. Is that similar?
Yeah, exactly. Gut feeling. Same.
And it never leads you wrong. Even for
no, that's it.
I just graduated, but taking tests, I'd be like, what's the answer? Boom, got it right. For the most part,
yes.
Don't study. Please study.
No. A fellow. That was probably the most extreme example I put in the book, was the time I was required at college to take a trigonometry test. And I'd never taken trigonometry. So while I had always wanted to take trigonometry, objectively, I really didn't know the answers on this test. but it was multiple choice. And so I just guessed. And I got a 95% on a test I knew nothing about.
Wow.
And I was thrilled, not because I still don't know anything about trigonometry, but my intuition. I was learning to listen to my intuition. So I don't recommend it in general, but I know many other people who have similar stories of like, okay, I was in this position where I had to do something I didn't know how. And when I listened to my intuition, it was there to guide me.
If college kids don't listen to this podcast, I don't know what will help them.
Yeah, there we go. Well, they should also learn TM so they get better at experiencing their intuition.
Okay, TM. Let's cover, although it's never going to take 7 minutes to understand this. How can we all start Transcendental Meditation?
Yes. There are 7 steps to learn TM. The first 2 steps are an introductory and a preparatory lecture. You can now usually do those online or through the TM app, which I think is just, if you search the App Store for TM app, I think is what it's called. Then you will have a personal interview with your TM instructor where you are able to express what you'd like to learn, how, any desires, concerns, whatever, to get to know them as well. The 4th step will be personal and private instruction. That's always done one-on-one with a certified TM teacher. And then there's 3 days of checking. And in the days of checking, you get more understanding on the basis of your experience. So each day builds on the previous day. And then by the end of 7 days, you have everything you need to learn to practice TM for the rest of your life. You also have the option to go to a TM center and be personally checked by a TM teacher at any time to participate in advanced lectures and other activities, that are included in your TM course fee for lifetime. But you never have to go back. If you want, after the 7 days, you're totally set. You can just continue on your own. And I believe now in the TM app, you can do those final 3 days of checking also on the app.
Wow. And people can do this anywhere, really.
Anywhere in the world. There are certified TM teachers, I think, in about 130 countries of the world. Wow. So if you happen to be in one of the countries that doesn't have a TM teacher, send us a message and we'll help you find one.
Absolutely.
Otherwise.
And when you're going through the practice, what are we doing?
Yeah, I'll tell you in general, because you have to learn from a teacher in private. But in general, what you're doing is you're taking a meaningless sound and you're using that sound in the way that you're taught. And what that does is it allows your mind to settle down automatically. It's like when you're standing on the edge of some water and you want to go swimming. Okay, maybe you're on a diving board, you have to be up a little. You just jump and take an angle, and gravity does the rest. It pulls you in. So in the same way, in Transcendental Meditation, you're given a technique, which is like a correct angle, and then the mind automatically dives to the depth of settled state of thinking.
Is it like almost you're getting a binaural beat to activate a certain frequency in your brain, and then you follow that, or is it a certain noise?
Considering I don't even know what that is, I'm going to say probably not.
Yeah. Okay. Binaural beats are basically just a bunch of frequency sounds. It's almost like this small buzzing sound, and it delivers a certain hertz.
Okay. Yes, I have heard of that. No, it's not. Okay. It's not that.
I see.
It's a mental practice, so you don't need headphones or anything. It's you can sit on a bus, on a plane, anywhere.
Oh, really? That's different from a lot of meditations.
Yeah, you don't need to have a quiet environment. It can be done anywhere. I mean, many people prefer a quiet environment, but it's not necessary.
Well, Dr. Plaut, this has been amazing. Where can people find more on how Transcendental Meditation works, your book, all of the above?
Mm-hmm. My book is already available for pre-sale on Amazon, but if you want more information sooner, you can go to bemorehappy.com, which is my website, and reach out about courses where we go more in depth on the information covered in the book and personal coaching. If you would like to learn Transcendental Meditation, you can go to tm.org, or you can reach out on the website with any questions about it.
Wow. This has been so amazing. You're an absolute wealth of knowledge. Thank you for all your experiences, everything. It's been wonderful. This podcast is really good for everyone. It's functional. We're going to do it today. We should take the action steps. All of your links are going to be down below. Thank you once again. Any last words?
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you to your listeners. It's been a pleasure to get to share with all of you, and please do reach out. I would love to hear from you.
Awesome. Thanks once again. Thank you for listening to this Cool Health podcast. Our goal is to make health cool for everyone, so thank you for your contribution to this cause. If you received any benefits out of this podcast, please consider supporting us by hitting like, sharing it with others, and subscribing to our channel. Thanks once again, and see you guys next time. Now go make impact in this world.